So, welcome back to another episode of the Ace Talks podcast, where we talk about Ecuador and a little more. And today we have some special guests. I would like you guys to introduce yourselves.
I'm Steve.
I'm LaShawn with Living Loving Abroad.
Living, loving abroad. Are you living, loving abroad?
Yes, we are.
I've been waiting this whole time to ask that question. All right, so today we're gonna ask you some questions since, from what I understand, you guys are living over in a beach city. Specifically, what city are you living in?
We are in Salinas, Ecuador.
Salinas, Ecuador. And how long have you been in Salinas, Ecuador?
We've been in Salinas about 15 months.
Yeah, about 15 months.
All right. It's a good amount of time. What do you, from initial reaction when you first arrived there, like what did you think of Salinas when you first got there?
We loved it.
Yeah.
Right off the bat.
Yeah.
It's small. It meets our needs. The climate, just what we thought.
Yeah. It wasn't too muggy. The temperature was good. The beach is, on both sides of us. The place we live is really nice. And for us being kind of not the most outgoing people, we're not always out doing a lot of stuff. It was perfect for us because we didn't need a place that had everything.
A lot going on.
We just needed enough for us to be okay.
I feel like we get along very well in that aspect. I barely leave my house, and if I had the choice, I wouldn't leave my house. So don't worry. A lot of people might be surprised about that. Just not a lot to do sometimes. But going into that question, like adding into that, at the beginning you felt it was great. Do you still feel the same way, or are there any differences in your thoughts from when you arrived to now?
No, I still feel the same way because, like he said, we don't do a lot. So when we do go out, it's still surprising. Like, oh my God, this is going on because we don't see, we're not out. And I still feel the same way. It's still nice. The people still friendly. We still do the same things we did when we first got here. No more, no less. And it just works for us.
Specifically, the city itself hasn't changed since we got here. The only thing that's really changed is the country. But the city of Salinas hasn't really changed. We still love it here.
And when you got here to Ecuador, like why? Well, not when you got here, but the whole process. Why exactly Ecuador, and what led you towards Ecuador and towards Salinas?
All right, so I'll do the first part, and then I'll let you get the second part.
Okay, I don't know what the second part is, but okay.
I'm going to pass it over to you.
Okay.
I came up with this idea at the beginning of 2021 to find a way for us to retire early and perhaps move to another country. Started doing a lot of research. It's like Panama, Costa Rica, Mexico, things of that nature. And started trying to figure out, budget, how could we make it happen? And then you spoke to your friend?
No, I suggested Ecuador because I have a friend who lives here who's Ecuadorian. And when I worked in the States, she worked with me. She would tell me all the things about Ecuador and how, wonderful it was. And so I was like, why don't we try Ecuador? And he was like, okay. And the visa process for Panama had changed. So we switched our flight and came to Ecuador, got here. She showed us around. We saw Guayaquil. We had been to Cuenca, and then we ended up in Salinas. That sealed the deal when we got to Salinas. Yeah. And we said that was it.
So yeah,
the angelic choir came out when we arrived to Salinas.
Or maybe it was the ceviche we had in San Pablo. That was so good.
Yeah, it was so good.
It's funny that you say San Pablo because over here in Puerto Viejo, there's an area called San Pablo, and that's the most dangerous part of the city. You don't go there. I find it really cool how the connections that you make in life kind of lead you towards certain paths that at the end of the day, this is like, I don't know if you're planning on staying in Ecuador forever. Maybe that's a good question that you can answer right now, but like how that connection that you made in work led you to the place that you might live for the rest of your lives. I don't know if you're going to live here for the rest of your lives, but
Well, I mean, if everything works out the way it's supposed to be, we would be here.
Yeah, and of course, situations can change, but unless there's something seriously bad that happens, then we don't really have a reason to leave yet. So yeah, it's a decision for the future. We'll see.
Let's let things keep rolling and see how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So the next question I wanted to ask, since now we talked about how you felt when you arrived, how you felt when you first arrived, and now, was there anything in the process, like when you were transitioning from the United States to Ecuador, that made it complicated? Is there anything that makes it complicated now? Like something that maybe, I don't know, the language, maybe the food, the people. What is there, or has there been anything that just has made this process not as smooth as someone would like?
For me specifically, the process, because we use a visa facilitator, so the visa process wasn't difficult. It was just time consuming and it was fairly expensive. But other than that, it wasn't difficult. The difficulty, I believe, for me and probably for LaShawn was just language. Because, once you get here, the people are wonderful. We can pretty much get everything we need. But being able to actually ask questions and understand people is something that you take for granted in a country where everyone speaks the same language. So when you come to a different country, you forget how much you communicate with people and how much understanding what people say is really important to your everyday life. So that part is something that we had to kind of get over really quick.
Language is just something that's very interesting. I actually had problems with the language myself when I got here. A lot of people really see me and they think, "Oh, but you're Latino, like you should know Spanish." But that's not the reality for every Latino living in the United States. When you live all your life there, you kind of don't interact in that language, and it's all English. So at least for me, it was that way. And my Spanish when I got here was terrible. And in the process of living here for so long and interacting with so many Ecuadorians, which is why I promote that a lot, I've learned the language. I think that's the best way to learn the language, just going out there, putting yourself out there and practicing. But of course, you can facilitate the process with, different things. It's good to know because I have had questions about that. What is the language like? Do you think there's anything that I could do to like learn faster, teachers and stuff like that? Everything that you do will help. Everything, even if it's just reading a book, because a lot of people undermine the power of books. But everything will help. I recommend everything.
Yeah, you need everything because I'm doing everything. We catch little words, and for me, I like things to be instant. I don't have any patience, and he tells me that I have very, very little patience, and I want things right now, and that's the problem I have for myself is the language barrier. I want to know, I want to understand, and I can read it better than I can understand it or hear it. It's just trying to speak it is terrible. My Spanish is terrible.
I speak it a little better, but it's still not good at all.
I think the actual effort put into the language, like actually speaking it, is much better than not doing it, because I think that's what a lot of people from the States feel when someone goes over there. Like, if you're here, speak English. So over here, it's also like Ecuadorians would feel much better if, even if you were just trying and it weren't perfect, that you're trying. Some might laugh, but at the end of the day, as long as you're learning, their laughter means nothing.
I think the problem I would say for me, is being in the U.S., how they portray Hispanics and make like a mockery. It makes me feel uncomfortable trying to speak the language because I don't want to.
You don't want to sound like you're making fun of.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think if you were in the States, that might be a problem with Latinos in the States, but over here, it's more of they're making the effort to communicate. So, some people can put up with it, and that's part of the certain conversations I've heard, that when you're here at a younger age, like you get to form these connections with people and you get more patience from them in trying to learn the language and trying to understand you and have a conversation. But as time passes, the reality hits, and a lot of people just don't have time to just sit down with you as much as they would want to and try to understand everything that you're saying. In the sense that if you're practicing Spanish, that's why in some cases I feel like it is better to have a teacher for that, just to make sure that they know that their time isn't like they have work maybe, But if you're giving them this as a job, then they feel more incentivized to like be there. So it's just certain things that I think about when it comes to language learning and me understanding. But I don't think anyone would ever take it as a joke unless you mockingly made faces in the moment of speaking, like trying to pronounce things in a weird sense. So I wouldn't worry too much about that.
Well, thank you.
So let's move on to the next question. When you got here, when you were investigating to come to Ecuador, you probably did your research, like you looked up everything, like you said, you made sure that this was a good decision. Is there anything that you found here that no one talked about on YouTube, no one talked about in articles, no one talked about in anything? Like you got here and you're like, huh, why did no one tell me about that?
I would say there was, if not for the fact that when we came on our exploratory trip, that her friend was here. Her friend and her husband were here, and she told us so much about the country, the customs, the traditions, so much about the food, what to look out for, what not to. We learned so much from her that I don't think that question really kind of came up in my head, because everything that I didn't hear before we came to Ecuador for our first trip, we learned during that first trip. So yeah, I didn't get that same shock, honestly. So I don't know if it was different for you.
I don't feel like I had a shock when we came here because growing up, I wasn't poor, but we didn't live in a very nice neighborhood, but I wasn't poor. So seeing the country like this, it's normal to me because we used to have markets. We used to have. I grew up on a dirt road, so
Yeah,
this is normal.
yeah. There's a lot of things that I think some viewers will find. That's a good point. There's a lot of things that some viewers will find shocking, whether it be the dirt roads, some of the houses that aren't finished, and things of that nature, in some of the neighborhoods. Depending on where those viewers are from or where they grew up, they've never seen anything like that. And we have. When I was young, I lived in the projects, and the projects had dirt roads. Those things are just like normal to me growing up. So seeing it here, it's not
Shocking.
it's not shocking. The only shocking thing is that like a road next to a dirt road is paved. That's the only shocking thing about it. But I understand, it takes money to do those things. But it's not like I consider them, the people that live there, as lesser people.
Right.
They're just people.
When you experience something like that, you have an understanding like, okay, that's not their entire life. That's their situation right now. You never know what's going to happen in the future to put them in a different location or a different, place in their life. The same thing that happened to me. I grew up on a dirt road, but once I became a teenager, we didn't live on a dirt road. We lived in a nice neighborhood. So things change. People's situation, can get the best of them at sometimes, or they have no control of that situation at the time. So you shouldn't look down on people because they live on a dirt road.
And sometimes, when I can say that, when I was young and like we lived in like a poor neighborhood, those are some of the happiest memories of my life. It's people don't have to have money to be happy. Just money can help you be happy, but it doesn't mean you're going to be happy.
Exactly.
So to your question, to your point. I'm sorry, we went on a whole tangent, but we were pretty prepared because I think mentally a lot of things that we saw, we were already just kind of mentally conditioned to know that these things already exist. And anything else culturally, like I said, her friend, pretty much schooled us on everything.
Talking about the situation with, like you said, the dirt roads and stuff like that being the best time of your life. A lot of people talk about that now, like friends of mine who are like, I remember when I was a kid and I used to eat dirt. Those are like great times. Now kids have tablets and stuff like that, and they don't know what they're missing. A bit of a tangent for anyone listening to this episode, but just a little bit of life with Ace, kind of. But it kind of feels like when we grow up, when we become like adults, we miss things in the past that happened. And really what I still find conflicting, because this is how nostalgia kind of works, there are people who miss things that maybe weren't great, but because that got them through hard times, or that was just something that was really fun for them at that moment, it felt really good for them. Obviously, there are people who 100%, like, that time of their life was really amazing and it was better than what you live now. If you think about life as an adult, everything is work, 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 work. As a kid, you just have fun all the time.
Yeah.
Except for studying, of course. But you know, it's like that. So sometimes what I want to say is that the nostalgia that we feel, I sometimes, I'm not sure if we miss things just because it was around in a time of our life when there was nothing else to do and that was just a fun thing, or if we really genuinely miss it. I'm not questioning yours. I'm just like saying, based on a lot of the things that I've heard with how people want to go back and like do certain things that in the past, that I kind of think, was that really as great, or is it just like the idea of it being great because now things are different? Not sure.
Right.
Just a bit of a tangent that I was thinking about. Also, with the situation of the dirt roads, I really don't think less or more of anyone who lives on one or off one. And it's kind of funny that you mentioned the dirt roads, because I know I made a comment about this somewhere, but there are people here in Ecuador that I've known my whole life, and that, well, my whole life here, and their whole life that they've been living here, and they've had the same dirt road like for all their life, and they're like, this is never getting fixed. Like it really feels that way because everything else gets fixed. That's why it was funny when you said like there's a dirt road next to a fixed road, like, and there, what about their road? Why not their road? And it's like, it's so frustrating. Like me feeling frustration for them.
You're absolutely right. Is it
Yeah.
nostalgia? Like,
I mean, maybe, but still some great memories.
it was. I mean, I'm not. I don't know if I would want to go back. Who knows?
Yeah.
But just those memories, they were great, and the people, like you said, the people you were around made it great. So
everyone was in the same situation, so no one was really down about their situation. Like we were all, not wealthy.
Right.
Everybody was in the same bucket.
And then the kids now, I don't think they could survive. I really don't think they could survive what we went through. I mean, I had iron skates. I mean, no metal skates on and falling. Yeah. But anyway,
things were different.
Yeah, they were great.
It's a different life. Before I continue with the Ecuador questions, I realized that I didn't ask you guys if you're still currently working, what you did for work when you were in the States. Like, what can you tell us about that?
Well, no, we retired. I used to work as a supervisor at a juvenile detention center for many years with the city that we lived in. Gave it up.
I was a budget manager at a university in Virginia. So, yeah, the stress
I'm guessing
level.
the work was very tough.
Stress level is over. Even though it may have been not labor intense, his was a little bit, but mine wasn't. The mental stress just wasn't worth it.
Yeah. So we don't. The only work we do now is YouTube. That's it.
I don't ever like to think that any job is easier than the other, because no one knows how difficult work is really until they do it themselves. I personally have no idea if I could handle any of the jobs you guys just mentioned, because that's just not in my skill set. I'm 100% sure I'd have a very hard time for doing those things. That's why I always respect when people put a price on what they do, because I know that they had to go through a process to be able to do it. A lot of the things that we talk about here with my Ecuadorian friends, how people like to undervalue the jobs of others just because it looks easy. No job is inherently easy unless you're just sitting there doing nothing, which even then, sometimes in jobs like that, you never know what they have to do in jobs like that. Like I just look at the job of a secretary, or like a person who's like just standing at a desk, just waiting for people to show up, just like how long they have to be there, how stressful it must be to have to stand sometimes, to just wait. And if you're the owner, to hope for someone to like come into the business. I think about that a lot because my dad has his restaurant, and he's just sometimes in there, and I know he spends hours waiting for like a person to show up, because that's just the way it is. And it's that mental stress. Am I going to make enough for the next day, like to feed my family? So I get every job has its difficulties, even if it's not obvious for the people who look at it from the outside. So, no worries about it. Labor intensive or not, hard jobs, I respect it. I respect the grind.
Yeah.
So now I wanted to go back into a very big question that I had for you guys, because you guys live on a beach city. That's, oh boy, you guys get all the mess when it's the feriados, the holidays. I'm really glad. I'm assuming your friend warned you about that before, but when you guys got here and you experienced it, because I assume with all the time you've been here, unless you escaped during that time, Carnaval and I think Semana Santa or the end of Semana Santa are the two times when the beaches are just crazy. How was Carnaval for you if you were here? What did you think of it? What are some things that you'd like to let everyone know about the craziness of Carnaval in a beach city?
You're going to get wet.
Yeah, if you want to go outside, you're going to get wet.
You're going to get wet, and don't get mad because we were told that Carnival here, you get water thrown on you.
And the foam.
And the foam.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to be foamed or water thrown
splashed
on you, don't go out.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to be upset that that's a tradition. That's a, one of the tradition that Ecuador has. Why am I going to be upset that I was out there during that time and I got foamed?
Especially if I was warned.
Yes, yes. But we went out there and it was very fun to see.
Yeah.
Because people had some really creative ways of getting people wet.
Yeah, like just barrels of water on the back. Now, when we say we went out there,
we went on the street.
Yeah, let's from a distance.
We was from a distance.
And because I wanted to record a little bit of footage, I don't try to record everything, but I did want to get a little footage. But I didn't want to go out there with any kind of, my phone or camera equipment or anything and get splashed. So I said, well, okay, we'll just do it from a distance. We'll look. And the people seem to be having a great, the Malecon was absolutely jam-packed. Mm-hmm. I do think that they maybe should have stopped vehicle traffic and just had foot traffic, because New Year's was strictly foot traffic.
Yeah.
And New Year's was great. New Year's was wonderful. But yeah, with Carnival, there was some weird stuff that happened. People doing some things they shouldn't have. That I know showed up on like TikTok and everything.
Well, we didn't know about it.
We didn't even know about it. We didn't see any of that.
I don't know what time it happened because we was out there after midnight. Well, right at midnight when everything took place, and then we came in.
No, that was New Year's. You're thinking about?
Oh, that was New Year's.
Yeah.
Okay.
Carnival, we went out during that
during
weekend. During the day. We didn't really go out there at night. So yeah, it for us it was fine. There was a little more noise on the Malecon, so we closed the windows. But other than that, I understand. Like I said, there were some things that happened that maybe shouldn't have, that will probably be corrected next year. But as far as being here, parking was insane. From our building, from our floor, we can see a lot, and there were just cars parked everywhere. Absolutely everywhere.
But it wasn't. I mean, for us, it wasn't bad. Like, it was only a weekend. Yeah. I mean, well, the 4 days, but it wasn't unbearable. It was just, this is something that happens, and we enjoyed it.
We made sure we went to the store. We made sure we went to the grocery store before it started to stock up, because we knew the stores would be packed. And yeah, we were fine. So it's just one of those things. If you come here for the party, then that's what you really got to be prepared for, what's going to be going on. Like, it's a lot of traffic. People are throwing water. People are throwing foam. That's what you got to be prepared for. Kids, a car will drive by you and just somebody will splash water on you. And
if your windows are down, you caught.
Yeah.
You caught. So don't be mad. You caught.
Yeah.
So it was very fun to see, and it was nice to see that everyone was having a great time.
Yeah.
We don't get to see that a lot in the U.S., but just seeing families coming out having a great time, we enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I think I thought it was pretty funny that recording from a distance. I thought of you like with the camera and binoculars, like from a distance. Check that out over there, because you really do have to keep a very large distance to make sure you avoid anything during Carnaval, any water or any foam being splashed on you, or in previous year's worst things. I'll explain that in a second. But yeah, the situation with what happened, the terrible things in Carnaval, like that shouldn't have happened. I think that's why the mayor was actually like kicked out also because of what happened. If it wasn't the mayor, it was someone in the a big position over there. I do remember when that happened, and this is why I kind of say that you can't really say that one thing is going to happen all the time or the other. Like, just, I know it's a strange comparison, but just think of crime. Like, you guys didn't see that happen. Like, the really weird, bad things, you didn't see them happen, but they happened. It's the same thing with crime. You might not see it every day, but it could be happening right, like, on the other side of the street. Like, you never know. It's like, it's just something that, while you're not, like, actively putting yourself in a position to, like, see those things or be a part of those things, it might not happen to you. I know it's a different comparison. One is crime and one is kind of crime, but just a weird form of crime. In the sense that none of that was legal. None of what happened should have happened. Anyway, just some observations that I made when I was listening to all of that. Oh man, Carnaval, always a crazy time. I've personally only been a part of it, I think, around 3 to 4 times in the time that I've been here. Because, well, first, it's better to go with people. And second, after my first times in Carnaval, which was, like I said, we're talking about, I've been here over 10 years now. It's just, I didn't take away the best experiences sometimes. Like, tons of foam. And before, they used to throw foam that wasn't regulated. So it would be foam that would mess up your clothing. The water, they used to mix dirty water with the water. And now that's a crime. You can't do that. They used to throw eggs at cars, like at one point in Carnaval history. So there have been very, very weird things that people just seem to want to, I don't know why they seem to want to do this, want to just skirt around the rules and just do bad things to harm people when it's just supposed to be playful fun. Like, hey, you throw some water, okay, I'm wet. Hey, you throw some foam, hey, okay, I got foam on me. Now I look like Santa Claus. But like purposely trying to hurt someone, like dirty water, you don't know if that gets in someone's eyes. The egg, that hurts if it hits you. And then there's the foam that damages clothing. I guess the people who made it just wanted to make a quick buck, because you see that they sell a lot of the foam on the streets when it's Carnaval. So it's just things that I've lived through that kind of have made me grow distance of wanting to go to a Carnaval party. Other than the fact that, like I've said before, I'm not a very go out all the time person. If I can stay at home, watch movies, play games, I'd be happy.
Yeah.
Yes, that's us.
Yeah. We actually enjoy with all the other holidays that happen here in the beach towns. We go outside and we don't really like to be around big crowds of people anyway. But we'll look down the beach and you'll just see groups of families. And that's the one thing we really enjoy seeing, that just like it's not just a bunch of young people out here. It'll be like entire families, young people, their grandmothers, their kids, everybody, little brothers and sisters. So we actually really enjoy seeing that.
That's another really cool point about Ecuador. Like, there's a lot of family union here. It is really nice to see because personally, you might have already noticed from the last live stream, I'm really big promoter of family here with my dad. If I could have my brother here recording with me, he'd be here, but he's not into the whole, I guess, YouTuber scene. If I could get my friends here, heck, I would love it. It's just not something that I can expect because everyone's busy. Everyone has things to do. So I respect that. So yeah, let's go on to some of the final questions that I have for you here today. One of the most important questions that I think I wanted to ask is mainly, what tips do you guys have for someone coming to live in Ecuador? And if possible, out of those tips, like let's just assume 3, can one of them be super specific to living in a beach city?
The first tip is do your research. Like, really research where you want to live. Look at the climate, look at the cost of living, transportation wise, healthcare wise. Like, if you are here because you have some type of illness, you need to be in an area where there's a lot of doctors, hospitals,
or at least nearby.
And decide whether you're going to need transportation, as far as a car or not. You want to live in a area that's in walking distance, that you can walk to different places. Yes, there are taxis, but first, just do your research. That's the first tip.
Yeah, absolutely. And do your geography lessons and learn the country the best you can, because Ecuador has, every climate you can imagine, and every biome you can imagine. So if you can't deal with mosquitoes, you need to be up high. There's things you got to consider. I think, maybe for a second tip, I would just say be prepared financially, because you can hear that it's inexpensive, but it's not inexpensive to get here. It's not inexpensive to fly here from the States or Canada. It's not inexpensive to get the visa. You have to find a place to stay, unless you're going to do a sight unseen, which isn't recommended. You might have to get an Airbnb for a little while before you can find a permanent place to stay. Know that, you'll have to feed yourself, and, you may need to buy an oven. You may need to get this. There are things that you have to consider cost-wise, because just because the country itself is cheaper to live than the U.S., it doesn't mean it's free.
And if you're fluent in Spanish, then yeah, you may be able to navigate getting your own visa. When you're not fluent in Spanish, it's better to get a visa facilitator to assist you, and that can become expensive because they're doing the legwork for you, and then you need to consider that cost if you're going to move.
And you know what? It's going to end up being 4 tips. But one other thing, if you're coming from another country, whether it be especially English-speaking country, your lifestyle. What I'm saying is consider your lifestyle, because if your lifestyle where you come from is always entertaining people and going to parties and doing a lot of social things, that may not be an option depending where you live, where you come to in Ecuador. So that's why a lot of expats end up in places where a lot of expats already are, because they want that social connection. So if you really have to have that social connection, well, then that limits the number of places you can move to. It's like, Manta, Cuenca, Quito, maybe Guayaquil, Loja, stuff like that. So you have to consider everything, like how important it is that you are around a whole lot of other expats. For us, it wasn't really that important. So, being here is fine.
And there are some expats here that we've connected with. But again, him and I, or
us,
we moved here with each other, and we feed off of one another. And this is my partner. So we already knew that we're not like we said, outgoing, like going places. We're a homebody, so we're good with one another. I will say the fourth tip when coming to Ecuador, come with an open mind. Don't come here narrow-minded, talking about what you don't like and all of this stuff. Stay where you are. Do not come with those views about you don't understand why they do this, you don't understand. It's just stay. Don't come.
Yeah. Or keep the complaints to yourself. Yeah. It's not that hard. So, all right, we got to talk about beach town.
Okay, beach town.
Okay. We're giving like 5 tips.
Hey, I don't think anyone's going to complain about more tips.
For our experience, I would just say be open to the fact that it may be a little louder than you're used to.
And it's not always.
No, and yeah, I mean, if you're close to like a Malecon. So for us, that's where we are. So we know we're going to have a little more noise, but still it isn't that bad. The only thing we consistently hear is the garbage truck song, which we don't mind at all.
No. Oh, and then, during the summer times, we hear the party bus.
Yeah. Well, even now, like they still come around sometimes. Yeah.
We don't get to a point we don't even hear them.
Yeah, we don't pay attention to it.
And sometimes it's fun to see that they're having a wonderful time. Yeah. They're singing along, and it's just, young people having a good time. And I would like people to understand we all were young at one point, mm-hmm. and we wanted to have a good time.
Yeah.
So just be mindful that young people like to have fun.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah. If you're in a beach town, that's what you're going to see. Bars and, people maybe drinking or whatever. But here it's not rowdy. We can walk up and down the Malecon and you see people drinking on the beach, but there's never any like disruptions or anything really going on that we've ever seen. So just know that, if it's a beach town, beach towns all over the world are kind of the same.
Yeah.
They're party places. and that's what you need to know. But otherwise, it's you go back 2 streets, totally quiet.
So
That's
those are
my
the
tip.
tips?
Those
Yeah,
are
those
our
are
tips.
tips.
All right. Perfect. I do want to know, since you guys asked me, now I have to ask you, what is your favorite food here in Ecuador? What food do expats have to try when they come here?
Okay, go ahead.
You go ahead.
Okay, so for me,
okay, sorry.
You want to go?
Seco de pollo.
I was
Is it
okay. I was
Seco
gonna say seco. That was
Seco de pollo.
Yeah.
You have to try it.
Yeah.
The bologna, you can get it with chicharron or you can just get it with cheese. I like the one with chicharron.
A lot of chicharron.
Oh, it's so good. So good. Okay, you can go ahead.
I was gonna say, as an introductory, like food to the country, just any seco, whether it be seco de chivo, seco de pollo, whatever, seco de camarón, whichever you prefer. It's just a one. I haven't had a bad one yet. I'm sure they're out there. I'm sure there's bad ones out there, but I just haven't had a bad one.
Well, yeah, we haven't had a bad
and
one.
it's such a inexpensive meal, and it's so good. So that's my introductory meal for any expat. Just come get any kind of seco, SECO, just get any kind of seco.
And another thing, sopa, soup.
Chicken soup.
Oh my God. I do not like soup in the summertime. When it's hot, I do not eat soup. But soup here, anytime. Anytime. It's so amazing.
100 degrees doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It just fills my heart. You can feel the love in the soup. It's so good.
Yeah, and like the good encebollado, like we talked about before. That's always a good choice. But yeah, for expats, I would say the most neutral thing is probably seco.
Seco.
I was about to say, if you don't mention encebollado, you're committing a crime on this channel. But no. So seco is a great recommendation. It is a very staple dish for a lot of Ecuadorians here, and I like it too. I just don't consistently go out and search for it. It's more for me encebollado. And recently, I don't think it's Ecuadorian food, but recently over here in Puerto Viejo, there's this, not a dish, it's like a street food that's basically nachos or taco, but with like the taco meat inside of a bag. Like just imagine a bag of Doritos, right? And inside of that they have like taco meat and the Doritos mixed together.
Oh, well, that sounds good.
Yeah, I've had that.
You did. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
She did. I forgot. She did have that.
There's this place in Puerto Viejo that makes it amazing. I don't know how it is over there, but over here I tried it, and it's nowadays I like have this like internal conflict where I'm not sure if I should go eat an encebollado or if I should go eat a bag of tacos in a bag.
But I think encebollado would be more healthier than the taco in a bag.
That's so good. I forgot to mention my actual favorite meal is the cazuela mixto with all the different seafoods in it. I love it. If I go to a restaurant and I'm not sure what I want and they have cazuela, that's exactly what I'm getting. Period. Every time.
No
clay pot. Every time.
It's always good to have a favorite dish at a restaurant, especially when like there's a lot of variety and you're not sure. Like I always go for the surefire meal, which for me is always, if there's encebollado. If there's bolon, pan de almidón, give me that. Another really good dish that I really like to eat, that I had this argument, that's why I didn't mix it into my Ecuadorian food video, but like there's this food that's called it would be, in English it would be breaded chicken or breaded meat, but in Spanish they call it apanado. Pollo apanado, pescado apanado, camarón apanado. Any food that's apanado basically has breading over it. It's really good. If you guys haven't had it, I really recommend it.
We've had it.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
I didn't know the name, so now
Apanado. And in English, breaded, because it has breading. That's it for now. I would like you guys, well, first, thank you for being here. And I'd also like to know, is there any way that if anyone wanted to reach you on some place that's not YouTube, where can they find you?
Well, on TikTok, we're Living and Loving Abroad. On Instagram, it's
Live, love abroad.
Live Love Abroad. On Facebook, we have the Living Loving Abroad group channel page. I'm sorry, Facebook. So just look us up. If you go on our YouTube channel, the links to our other social media are there on our channel on Living Loving Abroad on YouTube. So yeah.
I will be leaving all of this in the description of this episode so that you can click right to it. And once again, I appreciate you guys taking this time to have this conversation, and more than anything, to help the audience, because I think every information from different perspectives is valuable to a person who's deciding to live in Ecuador, visit Ecuador, retire to Ecuador. It all helps. So it definitely is always worth getting as many points of view as possible.
And thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been great. We've enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah,
Anytime. I hope we can have future encounters like this. Or if one day I go to Salinas or you guys come to Puerto Viejo, we can do an in-person video.
Yes.
You're absolutely welcome to come here.
Yes.
All right. I will be there as soon as I can. All right, guys. So thanks, everyone, for joining us here today. Make sure you take care. Have an excellent rest of your day. And as always, peace out.
Bye.
Bye.